Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's now time for us to get into the discussion. Being Wednesday is the viewpoint. My name is Victor Law, and let's get into it. Today, let's talk about the whole process of IEBC elections, voter registration, I beg your pardon, that ended yesterday. I want us to crunch the numbers and take a look at really what happened during the period when new voters were picked and were listed. But then zoning of different positions also took place. That is what I'm talking about here. When you come to different areas, mapping took effect. Some regions recorded a high number of new registered voters, others did not. And to this point, IEBC actually expected to do 2.5 million. According to them, we are waiting to get the final number that was registered as at yesterday. I'll be joined in studio, of course, starting by Dr. Anthony Gitonga, who is a governance expert. He's also a gentleman who, watu wa Gatanga wanasema, okay. Ama wewe tunasema?
Watu wadhaya.
Watu wadhaya?
Yes.
Wanasema?
Wamekubali, wamesema sasa tunangoja tu time. Anthony Tosha, aende bunge awakilisha udhaya ipasavyo.
Yes.
And we do the right thing.
Very good.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later on.
Yeah.
Welcome. Still waiting for Warimu Gatasha, who is an advocate of the High Court, and Odoyo Widi, who is a political analyst. They'll be here shortly. Okay, let me start by taking you through the front page, as usual, of the local dailies. Starting with the front page of the Star, disquiet rocks Oburu camp as MP's Mal new political plan. Doctor, did you hear that? Disquiet rocks Oburu camp as MP's Mal new political plan.
Yes.
Several lawmakers consider joining Sifuna team.
Yes.
That is on the front page of the Star newspaper.
Yeah.
I think for the record, let me just raise it.
Yeah.
That is what's there. Some MPs are actually contemplating to jump ship and join the Sifuna team.
Yeah.
That story is on the front page. Keegan questioned on Ruto links as JSC interview. He was interviewed, amongst others, for the position of the Supreme Court judge. That is what I have here. Looming standoff as Senate plans to centralize county hiring and firing of employees. And finally, the story about GMO here is researchers now explore GMO cows to tackle climate disease burden. GMO cows. Science, okay. So let's come back to this one. Disquiet rocks Oburu camp as MP's Mal new political plan. What do you make of that, Dr.
Thank you so much, and thanks again for having me this morning. That was always going to come, Victor.
Yes.
As a wise politician, what you want to do is that you want to associate yourself with the future, all right? Not exactly with the past or where you've come from, but with the past. But when you look at ODM, the two factions, you have one faction that is led by Gladys Wanga,
yes,
which is, the status quo faction that says we must continue doing these things the same way. We must stay this way. But then you have a very vibrant faction led by Sifuna and Babu Owino, and that's the future.
Yes.
All right, and that is why they are saying we want to offer different kind of leadership in this country. We want to be able to bring everybody on board, and so the wise politicians then, members of the ODM, can be able to see the difference. All right, do we want to stay in the Gladys Wanga-led team and just be here and continue to relate with the current regime, which perhaps they have seen that is also losing favor in their own grounds? Or do they want to say that we want to join camps and be able to form a new formidable team,
yes,
that can also attempt to take power in 2027? So I think it's just being able to calculate wisely and see where the future is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some leaders have actually expressed dissatisfaction with the running of the outfit, coinciding with growing appeal of Linda Mwananchi.
Yes.
And let me just quote what Millie Odhiambo said,
yes,
that they have created a hero out of Sifuna.
That's it.
And not that Sifuna is not a hero,
yes,
but they have made him who he is now. He was not who he was then.
Yes. That is very true. Sifuna has not just emerged. Sifuna has been very vocal from the word go. He's been very straightforward, Even during Baba's time, he would tell us, for example, that this is what Baba is telling us. This is the position of ODM as a party, all right? But we have seen that the continuous fight, the continuous trying to bring Sifuna down, the only thing it does is to make Sifuna a bigger hero than he already is, all right? And we have seen that. How do you explain that every time he has a political rally, you know, from Kitengela to Kakamega to the coast, you have the police and everybody infiltrating just to try and make sure that that rally doesn't happen, all right? So I think we are forgetting that very serious politicians are born out of, you know, serious protest. And so if somebody was very wise, if somebody didn't want to make Sifuna the hero he is today, they wouldn't need to touch him. But the continuous fight, the continuous, you know, they continue to fight Sifuna. He continues to be bigger, even bigger than themselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
And even the fact that Linda Mwananchi appears to be getting its politics right.
Yes.
And causing a little bit of disquiet with the other side. Let me come back to the front page of the Daily Nation.
Yes.
States shocking admission on CBE. States shocking admission on CBE. Teacher absenteeism and lack of learning resources blamed for situation. Nearly 3 out of 4 grade 3 learners cannot perform basic mathematics, according to a report by the Kenya National Examination Council, which also reveals that more than half are struggling with basic English literacy. These findings by the state agency mirror civil society reports and raise fresh concerns about the state of foundational learning under the competency-based education system. Front page of the Daily Nation. There are graphical illustrations there on what it's all about. Some regions have also been mapped out to show that. Okay, Kato Kigen, serving as Ruto's lawyer shouldn't derail my Supreme Court bid. That was yesterday. And how the new voters redrew electoral map. Part my discussion this morning. The Electoral Commission closed the 1-month-long enhanced continuous voter registration yesterday. And with the 2.5 voter target within reach. Did they get that number? And as at April 23rd, the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission had registered 1.87 million people. That is there. And finally, on the front page of the Standard, Ruto ties Hound Judge. Ruto ties Hound Judge. Justice Katwa Kigen walked into his Supreme Court interview. His earlier Court of Appeal vetting still fresh in mind, only to be met with sustained questioning over his ties with President William Ruto and his decision to seek a seat at the Apex Court barely 3 months into his role. Commissioners actually pressed him on whether he could be impartial in a presidential petition involving his former client, whether he would step aside, and how he would respond to pressure from State House. He pushed back, insisting that he would be guided by the law, but conceded that public perception of bias could still follow him if such a case landed before him. Wally Mudowi, good morning.
Morning to you, my brother. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
There's another brother of mine here.
How are you, sir? Yes.
How are you? Very well.
Karibu. Meli mengoa nanga officially.
I'm glad to join you.
Karibu sana. We are just taking a look at what's the front page of the local dailies, and let me come back to this question of Milo Diambo said that they have created a giant out of Sifuna. Sifuna is not who he was way back then.
Yeah, that's how politics works. You know, the population, when they hear you and when you can talk nicely, you are no different from a musician who can sing nicely. You will get a lot of following. Irrespective of what you can do or achieve for them, they will follow you. It's entertainment. And you see, there's something called bandwagoning. Where people are is where people want to go. So it can only grow bigger if it continues like this. But I can tell you, there will be a difference at the end of the day. You remember many years back, Raila Odinga used to pull the largest crowds in this country. He used to tear Uhuru Park apart and the Nyayo Stadium apart and everywhere else. But it did not translate into votes entirely. And when he went to Nyanza, it was even worse. The crowds were much, much, much bigger. Yet, he did not even get votes much there. So you must know that there are Kenyans who enjoy public rallies as an entertainment, as a sport. And Kenya is also one country where even people who think earthquake is witchcraft, people think lightning is witchcraft, also vote. So get ready with that. What you do with that information is yours.
I love the way you put it. I love the way you put it. Okay. So let's come back to what we should. There is this case of disquiet that has rocked, and I think for the sake of fairness, the disquiet that is rocking Oburu camp as the MP is now planning a new political move.
Which MPs are planning a new political move?
Members of the ODM party.
Which ODM party? Because I hear people keep on saying that there are two ODM parties. But nevertheless, Oburu, I think, became the leader of the ODM party. The members of the ODM who went to support and move with a movement called Linda Wananchi are actually not an ODM group. They are a splinter group. And if you look at them, you can count only a handful of ODM leadership in that group. But remember, we are in a democracy. In democracies, politics is played through propaganda. The person who plays his propaganda highest looks like they have an upper hand. So right now, when you look at the social media, the media, you see that there is a lot of anti-Oburu group in those papers. And they are not done by the ordinary individual citizens. They are done by organized platforms, organized purported TV groups, blog spots, and so on. So it means there is a very powerful force behind them doing that kind of thing. That is what goes on in and around the country. And there are a lot of platforms that their job is purely to relay and do propaganda. They take what you say in the first sentence, in the next one, they write what they want the people to believe. So when the people see the first sentence, they believe everything said there is true. For example, yesterday I said somewhere, I was asked, did you see the way Babu Owino was welcomed in Kisumu? I said, I didn't see, but show me. They showed me. When he arrived, there was a crowd meeting him. And I said, you see, this is what we do. Even in Noma Bay, we do this a lot. When a leader is arriving, he has arranged 100 motorcyclists, women singing. Because they have been induced, they meet him with ululations. The rest do what is called bandwagoning. Now they come running that, hey, I'm a faker. They don't know the trigger threshold number had already been induced and paid for to do that. But again, when people reported it, they said, I said it is impossible for Linda Wananchi to have a meeting in Nyanza without being paid. Something I did not say, but I said the team that met the leaders when they arrived were planned beforehand and paid to do that. So in politics, they add things. I told you here the other time, when President William Ruto went to Dagoretti one day and said, kuna wale ambao wanaenda wanavunja maduka, wanapora mali ya watu. Watu kama hao, pigeni risasi ya miguu. When the media reported it in the evening, they said the president had ordered the police to shoot protesters. And of course, that shoot kwa miguu was there, but they have added an angle, or they have removed the context. They have removed the fact that he said, wale ambao wanapora mali ya watu wakivuja maduka wakati wa protest. But the media reported that he said, shoot protesters. So propaganda is the tool that we use in democracies, both against the government and the opposition for a government who chooses to go through propaganda. So you will consume a lot of propaganda here knowingly and unknowingly. And actually, propaganda is disseminated by the media, both legacy media and social media, and even in public rallies, and even in gossip in bars, and even in grazing fields. Propaganda is what people consume. It is normally sweet, beautiful, and soothing to the heart.
Okay. So the voter registration ended yesterday. Gentlemen, the continuous ended yesterday after 30 days. What do you think really happened, Dr. Your assessment?
75% is not a bad achievement.
Yes.
I think we have seen the commission say that, in this particular phase, the target was 2.5. But as we head to the general elections in 2027, the overall target is to be able to register about 6 million new voters.
Yes.
So achieving about 1.8, 1.9 out of 2.5 million target is not so bad, but I think there is still so much that we can do. I think IEBC still has got a lot to do in terms of civic education, in terms of educating, and especially the new voters and the Gen Zs, on the need to come out and register as voters. Because we have seen them, you know, last minute rush. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, we saw quite a number of young people rushing to the registration stations to be able to do that. But I think generally the numbers don't look so bad, 75%. But there is so much that IEBC could have done to be able to achieve even more. All right, you know, civic education, a lot of media sensitization. I didn't see much. I think much of it was done by the political class. I personally did a lot of it from where I come from, in terms of having a caravan, in terms of going to the media. But I think as we continue, we need to see the IEBC, the Commission, getting to do more, and especially on education part. The young people, the new voters need to be educated. What does it mean to be a voter? And how exactly does it impact your life on when you get to elect leaders into office? What are some of the hits, before you get to the misses, Odoyo, what are some of the hits that perhaps the new commission achieved in this exercise? This was the national exercise that the Ethicon team handled.
I think the Ethicon team is really trying to depoliticize the voter registration. They are trying to talk less. They are trying to maintain a more background posture, which is a good thing in such a polarized political scene like the one we have today. As for encouraging Kenyans to register as voters, I think it should be more and more and more work of the politicians than the IEBC. It is good for many, many Kenyans to register as voters. But do you know, IEBC's job is to give you an opportunity to register as a voter. And once they have given that opportunity, they will ensure that your leaders whom you elected to represent you know about it. It is upon them to push you and push you. Because for IEBC, even if we have 10 million voters, they would still get a president out of it, governors out of it, MCAs and MPs out of it. So the politicians, the people who the large number of votes will make a difference in their lives one way or the other, needs to come out and push the people to register as voters and vote correctly, and vote for ideas, and vote for opportunities, and vote for development and governance. They don't need to take votes to go and vote people in or people out. They need to decide, what are we voting for? Are we voting for enhanced infrastructure development? Are we voting for good governance? Are we voting for transparency and accountability? Those are the things we need to talk about. We should not go to look for votes, to look for a voter's card, to go and vote some people in or out, 1 term or 2 term or anything. Look for something. And again, that would be better achieved when Kenyans learn to compare leaders. Because even if you have only criminals as presidential candidates, you will have to choose one of those criminals. Even if you had angels as presidential candidate, you will have to only take one and leave the rest of the angels. It is not an exam where everybody can pass or everybody can fail. It is something that one person has to be taken to lead this country, whether he's a criminal or not. So we must compare. That is why whenever I sit here, I want to compare the leadership that we are going to elect with the ones they are going to be elected with, and with the past and the probable future leadership.
Let's talk about the numbers, Dr. Terry. As of 23rd, it was 1.87.
Yes.
Today is 29th.
Yes.
So those are, you know, so many days apart.
Yes.
And as Kenyans, we all know, yesterday there was a lot of massive surge.
Yes.
Last minute, of course.
Yes.
Let's all assume that this number hits, as at 23rd, it was 1.87.
Yes.
So let's assume that this number has gone up to 2 point something. That's not bad for a start.
Yes. No, it's not bad. It's good. Just like I've said, I mean, even if it's about 75–80%, and this is a process that will continue. Remember, IEBC is still open to continue registering during the weekdays and in their offices at constituency level. That process will still continue. It's not a very bad number, all right? But I think just also to support what my good friend is saying, is that you cannot separate leaders and development, all right? We need to educate our people that development and whatever issues we want to see are actually brought about by leaders. So as we think about the people to elect into office, we must think about what can they do, what is their capacity, all right, what is their passion, what is their track record. So we do not directly elect issues. We are able, what we do is that we elect leaders to be able to bring into action those particular issues. Yeah. So I think that is important to really mention, so that as we get into 2027 general elections,
yes,
and especially the new voters, they're able to separate, the leaders who can do the job and the leaders whose work is just to keep, giving empty promises and just talking without action. Yeah.
Let's talk about the issue to the infrastructure and resource gaps, because
Yes.
you realize that some places they did not have
Yes.
proper kits.
Yes.
There were shortages of kits.
Yes.
Personnel sometimes they had some challenges.
Yes.
How do they address that? Because when you have got kit shortages,
Yes,
and you're headed to the next election,
yes,
that is a wake-up call to the commission.
yes. We saw that. I personally saw that. I think in my own constituency we had about less than 15 kits, all right? But I think they were also quite organized to say that if there is a need for more kits, they'll be able to deploy, all right? So I didn't think in terms of kit it was a big challenge. The other big challenge which we have seen is really the issuance of ID cards. We have so many young people saying, I want to register, I want to be a voter, but I registered for my ID card months ago, I still do not have it. So I think even as we continue to urge, and especially the new voters, the young people who might want to be voters, and especially for 2027, I think we really need to also urge the government to expedite the issuance of IDs so that these numbers can also be met. Remember, Victor, this is the first time that we are having the enhanced voter registration since 2022.
Yes.
The commission was just formed a few months ago. So in terms of the backlog, the young people who have registered to have IDs but still haven't gotten IDs and would want to register as voters, that backlog is there. So the numbers can be met, but then the government would need to expedite the issuance of IDs and would need to just continue with that civic education. Yeah, but the numbers are not really...
The number, I mean,
yeah.
Let's talk about the uncollected IDs. This, as per the national government,
yes,
that over 460,000 to 500,000 national IDs are uncollected.
Yes.
At the National Registration Bureau offices and Huduma Nation centers nationwide.
Yes.
So the IDs are there.
Yes.
The only problem is people are not going to take their IDs.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we resolve this? How do we resolve this? Because 500,000...
That's a huge number.
That's a huge number.
Yeah.
Odoyo, I mean...
we need to first find out why really are those IDs uncollected? Yeah. Who do they belong to? We have these issues. Number one, there are those who registered in the schools in which they were learning because the registrars went to those schools.
Yeah.
Now, that school probably is in a neighboring constituency, a neighboring county, or a distant place. So, for this, some of these young men are poor, uninformed, and they are unable to even just go and check if their ID cards are ready or whether they were. There are also people who maybe have migrated, and I don't think that should be very many, for one reason or another, from where they took. But what can solve this is we need to have a portal where somebody can check if their ID is available and where it is. But it's also not going to be very easy because at the point of registration, they did not have a registration number. So we cannot have a clear-cut ID number to use to search. But I'm sure if we have a database that can filter, if you type your full name, you could have 20 or 30 people with the same name, but you can figure out maybe if the photo, but photos are heavy, so certain phones may not be able to return it. But you can probably find out where you register is listed. Samuel Onyango Mwangi, this place, your ID is ready. So even if there are 10 Samuel Onyango Mwangis, I am sure you know where you registered.
Yeah.
So if it is there, you can go and check or and collect. That is the only way. Or somebody can make it his business.
Okay.
I am telling you, if you open the website and say this is where we are going to have registration IDs available or listed, you will get a lot of traffic there. Okay. And these days, traffic to any website is many.
How to serve you, team? I'm a good man, right?
Sure enough.
Okay.
You don't serve here Glenfiddich?
Is it too early?
Stay with us. It's time for tea. It's time for tea. Any other thing? No, not now. All right, welcome back. So, we have cups of coffee. Nothing else. Nothing else. Okay, let's come back and talk about this. There is that cause of concern when it comes to. We're talking about the voter registration listing that ended yesterday, the hits and misses. Okay, so we are still talking about the hits, about that one. We can see that there was a continuous update from the commission, all right, Daktari, continuous update from the commission. And then there is that aspect of, just giving the commission time to do their work.
Yeah.
Mwalimu has said that, actually you said that, they're trying to be independent as much as possible.
Yes.
IEBC in this country has always been given a very bad name.
Yeah.
All right? Because we all know it's quite competitive. It's the most sensitive commission.
Yes.
How do you think Ethicon is trying to change the perception of that commission in the face of Wanjiku?
I think I've seen it. Just like you've said. IEBC this time has tried to really remain behind the scenes.
Yes.
And that is why I was complaining when we started, that comparing with, Isaac Hassan-led IEBC, Wafula Chebukati-led IEBC, we haven't seen a lot of media sensitization. We haven't seen a lot of, adverts and everything on TV to be able to really rally everybody to go and those who haven't registered to register, and those who have registered to be able to confirm their details. I think it's taking a different approach, which is also quite positive, to say that for us as a commission, we are going to remain behind the scenes, because the work of the commission is to enable the process, all right? If you want to register, then this is where you need to register. We are here to serve you. But I think I also want to agree that the political class can continue to do better, because it is in their interest to have as many voters as possible. It is in their interest to make sure that many young people register as voters, and actually even on the material day we have as many people coming out to vote. So I think it's a different IEBC that we are getting to see, which I think is also really positive, to say that we are not going to be so vocal, so that our being very vocal is not mistaken to politicize the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you think? What do you think is going to happen? We have a new lot of registered voters. Let's assume the youth have performed fairly well. How are they going to change the 2027 polls?
They are going to change the 2027 polls with whatever information they have accepted to consume. And as I told you, in democracies, majority of the information that runs around, that the young people get, devoid of what happened in the past, is propaganda. Albert Einstein once said that a time will reach when media houses will be used to disseminate propaganda rather than to do business. And that time is now. And you see, you do not even blame the media houses for it, because they are in business. Because even them, sometimes they are unable to verify this is propaganda or not. And some, actually, that is a source of income. If they can serve one political formation and disseminate their information, then they are good to go. It is good that it is here in KBC I am able to say that. For saying that, I have been blocked from some media houses because there are certain things they don't want to hear. But we will continue telling them, because they will hear it, whether we say it in the streets, whether we say it in blog spots, and whether we say it in political, they will hear it. Because the people must know the truth so that they are able to make decisions. The young people have been lied to, and even the choice to use them for uprisings against governments throughout the world is well taken, well chosen. It is something that is well decided, because they know they largely do not have the benefit of history. They know that there are people we call purists. They want perfection. Something even them, they cannot do much of it. But that is their age. I was also there, and we did it. They also are made to believe that they are a different people from the adults. But they don't remember that the older people were also once where they are. But now they know better. So Gen Zs can really change the world in a way that you will be so shocked, because for the little information they have gathered for the period they have been adults, that is what they use. And that is why they think everyone else is stupid except them. Because if people use information that you don't have to make a decision, you can only see stupidity. But I must also tell you, because I know many of them are also listening, at that age where they are, when they are given power, power really corrupts them so fast because there is so much space in their brain. There was a president that I think it's Burkina Faso, Traore. He was celebrated by youth throughout the world. And they said he was changing. And he came and announced that within 2 years, he will have a democratic election. When 2 years reached, he said he has no time to waste in election because he has too much to do for his country for now. And he has turned to be a dictator faster than the people who took power at a much older age. And in my own research that I have not read somewhere, 95% of the people who became dictators throughout the world took power at an age below 45.
What are you trying to say?
What I'm trying to say, it is good to gain experience in leadership as you approach the apex of leadership, which is the presidency. I am telling you here on this show that if you elect somebody as president in this country below 45, in that range to the time that his 10-year limit will be, he will fight very much to remain in power, even if it means changing the constitution or changing things. Let me tell you why we have a problem. You hear Uhuru's name being thrown away left, right, and center. Because he left the presidency at a relatively young age. And many people do not know that even the rejection of Ruto as his successor and picking on Raila Odinga was meant to keep Uhuru in power longer. That is why there was something called BBI, in which there was the position of executive prime minister who would come in and appoint the cabinet. In fact, if BBI went through and say Raila was elected president, Uhuru would have been the one to appoint cabinet because we knew he was going to run for the position of executive prime minister. That is why there were 70 new parliamentary seats. And in Raila Odinga's stronghold of Luoland, there were going to be only 2 in Ndewa and I think Karachuonyo. So in the end, Uhuru would have remained in power outside of government with a different name called executive prime minister. Because at that time you can't fathom a fact that you're going home and somebody is going to be more powerful than you. But if you get into power at an advanced age, you go home peacefully like Kibaki went without even looking back. Mandela even didn't want a second term. Moi, when his age was ripe, he walked home, sat at home, and even never wanted to know the election results behind him.
We all know what happened in 2002. We all know what happened in 2002.
What happened?
Okay, story for another day. Story for another day. When you talk, well, I did want to get into that. When we look at how things are now going to shape, because now we have got registers and we have got the younger generation. Now let's come back to the political realignments.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the political realignment. Because politicians are going to use the data from IEBC either to form blocks, to do zoning as they want. They're going to pick who is going to be there based on who is going to suit this, who is going to, how is going to change. Let me start with that.
Yeah.
So we are yet to get the new data from IEBC.
Yes.
But you as politicians, you are now right at work right now.
Yeah. Fair enough, fair enough. Before I come to your question, there is a theory I want to challenge here, you know, about young leadership and about what we have seen in Burkina Faso. Part of it is true, but part of it can be challenged, you know. I think what we need to do as a country is to continuously strengthen our democracy, and especially the institutions that have certain responsibilities, you know, from judiciary to legislature to executive and many other institutions that fall within these arms of government, all right? It is not entirely true that when you elect a young leader, all right, then they automatically or quickly become dictators, all right? If you have very strong democracies, and we saw it in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected as president at the age of 44, all right? And because the US is such a mature democracy, Barack Obama served, all right, for the first time and went for the second term, and he was able to do pretty much what he could have done. So I think what we need to see and what we need to advocate is to have leaders who have the capacity to do the job.
Yeah.
It's not about age. It's about capacity. It's about the passion to deliver. It's about the skill, and also where are you coming from? Because even at a young age, surely you have a track record. What position did you have 5 or 10 years ago? And what vision do you have to be able to say that you can be president, or you can be prime minister, or you can be minister, or you can be MP, for whatever it is? Because if we take that as it is, then it means that we will never have the likes of, you know, the younger generation that are emerging. You know, talk of Sifuna, talk of Dindinyo, or talk of Babu Owino. We will never want to give them an opportunity to serve, because we will always keep giving the example that we have seen from Burkina Faso, and it's a fact. But I think it's only fair that we also give young leaders an opportunity to lead.
Yeah.
Coming now to your question, I think the numbers will dictate the factions and the coalitions that are going to be formed. Remember, at the end of the day, politics is about numbers. Who can be able to marshal as much as possible? Who can be able to bring so much into their basket to be able to win an election? And that is why you see today, even in ODM, we have 2 splinter groups. And it is true, I want to agree that propaganda continues to shape perception. And that perception will lead to very critical decision making. If you look at today, the young people are saying that, you know, there is so much that this government has not been able to do.
Yes.
That could be debatable. Maybe it's because the propaganda is so strong than the actual communication from government. All right, so as we continue to talk about propaganda, we must understand that it will continue to shape perception, and that perception will lead to decision making. All right, so it is the work of the opposition, it is the work of government to continue enhancing the way they do communication. But as we continue, we are going to see very, very interesting formations, because the questions will be, what numbers are you bringing to the table?
Yes.
What region are you coming from? We cannot run away from those questions. So that we see, can we form an alliance that can be able to have more numbers than the government if we want to beat the government?
And that calls for creation of new opposition axis, because it's going to happen. Between now, I said sometimes, between now and August, a lot is going to happen.
True.
How is it going to be, Odoye? Because when you look at the United Opposition's effort, they are trying to assert their authority. And that is politics, which is very okay, whatever they're doing, which is okay. But when you look at the other side of Gachagua trying to lock out President William Ruto from Mount Kenya, and President William Ruto was also in Mount Kenya for a number of days, so there is that push and pull. Rafiki nilitengeneza, nobody can destroy. The other side, they're also saying, sisi ndio tuko hapa, which is politics. I'm trying to look at a situation where the opposition is going to form their own axis, and the side of the ruling government are also going to form their strong axis. Let's talk about the Sifuna-Gachagua axis in an unlikely scenario that they work together.
Why are you saying unlikely? They can work
I'm
together.
just trying to think out loud.
Let me tell you something. The Sifuna axis, as you know, it consists of relatively very young people, except probably James Orengo. And I would not want anybody to start thinking they are being denied an opportunity to lead the country. They're already leading the country. If at Sifuna's age you're already a senator, you're doing very well. If at Babu's age you are doing your second term, you're doing very well. And they can rise like that until the presidency. Don't rush them into being the presidency as if they are aliens that are parallel to the rest of the people that will never get there. In fact, if you remove the older people from the president and give them, you deny the older people that forever. But them, they still have a chance. They are on the way coming, and they will come when they have experienced everything.
Where's the problem of being ambitious?
I am not saying, have I said anything? I have not said they are doing anything wrong.
No.
In fact, let me tell you.
No, what you're trying to say is that being the president should be a preserve for the old.
I have not said so. I have only said.
No, that's what you're trying to
I have only give you facts, and you were misinterpreting my facts.
No, I'm not trying to misinterpret.
When I told you that
position should be open for everyone.
When I told
45, 50.
I have not said they should not run for it. But I'm only telling you, when you have two people who should run for the president, you can only elect one. And,
right.
And when I said 95% of people who have become dictators throughout the world have become people who got into power at a younger age, you already interpreted it that I am saying young people should not be president. No. What you do with that information is your problem.
No.
And number two, he gave the example of Obama having gone there at a young age and left. That is the 5% I was talking about. So anyway, let's go to where we were talking. Let's go to where we are talking. If we have the opposition as it stands today, the realignment will not come after we have the voters register and we know who has more who. It will come when we decide who is going to be the candidate. If Rigathi Gachagua insists that he's going to be a candidate, a presidential candidate for his DCP, you will be shocked at the realignments you will see. Because Kenyans reason many times with their hearts rather than with their intellect, rather than saying, this person can do this, so we elect him. No, it is who is our person, who is not our person. That is what is going to happen. So people are going to start arguing with it. No, Mount Kenya have been in the presidency for far too many times. So me, as Kalonzo Musyoka, this is my last chance. So I would rather join Ruto. That's what is going to begin to happen. Do not be cheated that the purportedly unity within the opposition now is going to last, because it is just like that because they purportedly have a common enemy. And you cannot be in the playing field without those who outside not seeing your mistakes. They will keep on seeing that, you should have shot that ball right into goal. You should have given that person next to you. Maybe you are not even seeing them. But when push comes to shove, when now it is going to be decided, if you don't give Kalonzo, he'll tell you, this is my last chance. So why should I be with you? If you gave it to Rigathi Gachagua, they will say, these people have been in power for far too long. If you gave it to Sifuna, they will tell you, oh, this young man just came the other day. Why should he overtake us? You will see realignments not based on number of votes which is here, so we come together to beat so-and-so. That so-and-so, why should he be beaten anyway? So do not be cheated by the noise you see out here. Some people are even making this noise as an employment. Somebody somewhere is making them rich doing that. So the realignment will depend on who becomes the candidate in that opposition. Or if the united opposition continues being united, it may stop being. Because I've seen, since the court case against Gachagua is about to be announced, people have started talking differently from the way they used to talk. So do not think that the realignments will only depend on which region has what votes. It will also depend 90% on who has insisted on being the candidate. You remember in 1992, Jaramogi looked like the obvious candidate for the opposition against Moi. But when Matiba arrived the scene, he saw himself as the person with more votes. Yeah. And what did he say? Yes. I do not want to hear anything about delegates. Let the people decide. Because he wanted something that gives him an advantage over the others. There is also something that is going to happen. Take, for example, Rigathi Gachagua. If you say you are going to give, say, Sifuna that seat, Sifuna is most likely going to take 10 years if he doesn't do any mischief. How old will be Gachagua after that? So he will see this as his only chance. Kalonzo will see this as his only chance. Even Matiang'i will see this as his only chance.
Which is okay, because the politics is about one person leading.
Yes, I'm not saying it is wrong, but I'm telling you the factors which will determine the political realignments going forward.
Very good. Dr.
No, there are many dynamics when it comes to the realignments and even getting to pick the candidate who will lead the united opposition or whatever coalition it is. But we must appreciate that whoever is picked, there will be issues, all right? If you pick Martha Karua, somebody else might complain. If you pick Rigathi Gachagua, somebody else might complain based on dynamics and even the timelines that my senior is talking about, right? But I think what we need to know at the end of the day, it's about numbers, all right? What numbers do you, forget about whether you still have 5 or 10 years to go. Forget about where you're coming from. We know that at the end of the day, for us, the Kenya politics is about numbers.
Yes.
What numbers do you bring to the table? What resources can you be able to marshal? How strong is your party? All right? And that is why, for me, I'm in DCP, and I've told you this many times. And we have seen my party leader continuously talk about that for us in DCP, our presidential candidate is His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, because we are positioning our party to be able to produce a presidential candidate. Every other party needs to do so, even within the umbrella of the united opposition. Then at the right time, when we are now not talking about individuals, we are talking about issues, all right?
Yes.
What is the issue here? The issue is to rescue our country from so many cries that we have seen. The issue is to say that there are so many promises that have been unmet by this government. What can we be able to do? At the end, and we have seen these leaders say, as long as we're talking about issues, as long as we're talking about education and healthcare and agriculture and security, it doesn't matter who leads.
Dr. Where there is smoke, there is fire, right?
Yes, yes.
2 days ago, it was reported that there is a conversation going on behind the scenes for Sifuna Gachagua working together.
Absolutely. It is a possibility. And there is no harm, because at the end of the day, it's about numbers. All right? What numbers
Is this a discussion?
It is a discussion. It is a discussion that is ongoing.
Who initiated the discussion?
Those are talks behind the scenes. But just like we have said, there are talks between His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua and His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta.
How is it going to start up the united opposition?
I mean,
because he's just said that
the Sifuna-led faction within ODM is rightly in the opposition, and that is why when Sifuna and Babu and Orengo go to Kisumu and everywhere, they're talking about one term. All right, when Gachagua and Kalonzo and Wamalwa go to the coast and central, they're talking about one term. All right, so it means there is a common denominator in terms of what they want to achieve. So there's no problem in them initiating a conversation to say that we can work together. All right, and politics is about interest. What is your interest? How can it be met when you're talking about working together? So yes, it is an ongoing conversation, and in due time, then you will see a lot of it coming out in the public domain.
Do you have to say something about that? Because you just said something about the alignments and who is going to.
In the politics of this country, we analyze it according to what really favors our political formation. That is how we look at it. And now let me tell you, anybody in DCP will always insist on numbers will determine things as people come together. But it can also determine them coming together or going apart. Because if you pull the united opposition into one camp and tell them, now we are going to use the universal suffrage to determine who becomes the presidential candidate, they will not accept. The same way Jaramogi did not accept it in 1992 against Matiba. Because Matiba had counted his community and knew it was double Jaramogi's. And so the only way they wanted the presidential candidate to be picked was through universal suffrage. Jaramogi said, no. Let's use delegate system, because Jaramogi knew the delegate system would give only leaders to elect, and leaders knew that Jaramogi was the person who had pulled the rug under Moi's feet and brought in the multi-party as it was then. And also the leaders were capable of determining that at Jaramogi's age, he could only do one term. He was already 80, 81. You see that? So then they could reason like that. But I told you here in the opening speech that, do you know, even people who think lightning is a witchcraft also vote. They are not going to interpret that way. They are going to find out who is our man. Even when you talk about these development projects, they don't know anything. They will tell you, mimi sitatumia hiyo barabara, mimi sijawahi kuenda hospitali, so usiniambie mambo umejenga hospitali.
Okay.
So that is how it is.
Very well. I need to stop here. How is Kenya doing in 30 seconds, Odoya? The month of April is coming to an end.
I think in Kenya, we are doing well as a country, well governed, and because I told you in politics we compare.
Yes.
Let's start with governance. In Kenya,
30 seconds.
30 seconds. In Kenya, you find that all the countries surrounding us have their opposition leaders in jail. All the countries surrounding us. Yet in Kenya, we keep on saying, oh, dictator, oh, not doing this. We need to see what the other countries are doing and judge ourselves accordingly. We can't push our people with propaganda, this and that. So for Kenyans, what I want to tell you, when you are going to vote, ask yourself, what are we voting for? Not who are we voting for.
Okay.
Thank you.
How is Othaya doing?
Othaya is great. We thank God for the rains. But Othaya people are ready for change in 2027. And that change is coming. It's about effective representation in Parliament. It's about being vocal and really coming out to say that this can be done differently. And that's where we are. And that is why Anthony Gitonga is still strongly in that race to say that, like in 1974, when Othaya decided to elect in a younger legislator, and that is Mwai Kibaki, that time is going to happen again in 2027, because there's a lot of benefit in having a young, competent leader, you know, get to represent and serve the people in terms of capacity, in terms of skill, in terms of continuity, in terms of ambition. And we have a very good practical example in Mwai Kibaki in 1974.
Which I still ask you whether those shoes, I don't know which number.
And like I keep answering, I feel comfortable to attempt to fill the shoes.
Oh, bwana.
Itawezekana. Itawezekana.
Asante sana. Thank you, Gitonga. All right, sana.
Bwana, weka miguu ndani.
Lazima, tuko ndani.
Weka miguu ndani.
Unaweza.
No, lazima.
All right.
And it's about trying.
Yes.
And thanks for the opportunity.
All right, keep on fighting. Thank you so much. That's where it is, and that's where men are and women are. Fight for the people of Othaya. Thank you so much, Odoyo Wide, Asante sana, political analyst, and Dr. Anthony Gitonga, governance expert. Thank you so much for joining us. An apology from Wairimu Gatacha. She received an information, so she rushed for to attend a case quite urgently. She's an advocate of the High Court, so we excuse her for that. She'll be here. She's always been here with us.
Good.
All right.
Thank you
so much, gentlemen, for being a part of the show.
Asante.
Let's take a break. GMK continues after this. Stay with us.